The Silent Void. In the year 2097, the crew of the Starship Aegis was on a deep space mission, tasked with exploring a distant, uncharted region of the galaxy known as the Silent Void. The Void was a mysterious expanse, an area where no stars shone and no signals were ever detected. Scientists on Earth believed it to be a cosmic anomaly, but they had no idea what awaited them. Captain Eleanor Rayner led a small crew of 5, Dr. Malik, the ship's lead scientist, Andrews, the communications officer, Carter, the engineer, and Logan, the medic. They had been traveling through the void for days with nothing but the endless blackness of space outside their windows. It was eerie, unnerving. No stars, no planets, just a dark, infinite emptiness. Then they received the signal. A faint, almost imperceptible distress call. It didn't match any known frequencies, but it was unmistakably human. Help. Please. Trapped. Alone. Who the hell could be out here? Andrews muttered, his face pale as he replayed the message. There's no way, Dr. Malik said, shaking his head. No ship could have made it this far. Despite the crew's unease, Captain Rayner decided to investigate. They traced the signal to a derelict ship, floating silently in the darkness. It was an ancient model, a type of spacecraft that hadn't been used for nearly a century. The ship's name, barely visible on its hull, was Erebus. Erebus was lost in 2023, Captain Rayner said, scanning the information on her console. It disappeared without a trace, over 70 years ago. The crew docked with the Erebus, their lights flickering as they boarded the ghost ship. The air inside was stale, cold, and unnaturally still. Dust hung in the air like fog. There was no sign of life, no bodies, no footprints, just silence. I don't like this, Logan whispered, gripping his medkit tightly. It's too quiet. They split up to search the ship. As Captain Rayner and Dr. Malik made their way to the bridge, Carter stayed behind in the engine room to inspect the ship's systems. Logan and Andrews went to investigate the living quarters, searching for any signs of what had happened to the crew. As Logan opened the door to one of the quarters, a chill ran down his spine. The room was pristine, except for one thing. A single message was scrawled across the wall in what looked like blood. Don't listen to them. What the hell? Andrews whispered, stepping closer. He reached out to touch the dried letters when suddenly the lights flickered. And then they heard it. The voice. The same voice from the distress call, but clearer now. Help me. I'm trapped. Please. It's coming from the bridge, Logan said, his eyes wide with fear. We need to tell the captain. But before they could leave, the door to the quarters slammed shut behind them. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness. Logan fumbled for his flashlight, but when he turned it on, the beam illuminated something inhuman. A figure stood in the corner of the room, tall and gaunt, with skin as pale as ash. Its eyes were hollow pits, and its mouth hung open in a silent scream. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. Andrews backed away, his breath catching in his throat. What? What is that? Logan was frozen in place, unable to speak. The figure's hollow eyes locked onto his, and the voice from the distress call echoed in his mind. You shouldn't have come. You can't leave. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Captain Rayner and Dr. Malik found the source of the signal. A strange, pulsating device hooked into the ship's main computer. It was old, but somehow still active, emitting the distress call on a loop. This tech doesn't make sense, Malik said, examining the device. It's not from the Erebus. It's something else, something older. Before Rayner could respond, the lights on the bridge flickered, and the temperature dropped suddenly. The control panels shorted out, sparking violently. And then they heard the voice again. Help me, I'm trapped, alone. Dr. Malik's face twisted in confusion. That's not a distress call. It's not real. Suddenly, the device let out a high-pitched screech. Rayner clutched her head as the sound grew louder, drilling into her mind. She could feel something, like cold fingers probing her thoughts, a presence. We need to leave, now, she shouted, pulling Malik toward the exit. But the ship had other plans. Back in the engine room, Carter tried to restart the systems, but nothing worked. The ship felt alive, resisting his every attempt. The shadows around him seemed to move, twisting into shapes that weren't there moments before. And then, without warning, the power surged. The lights exploded in a shower of sparks, and Carter was thrown across the room. As he struggled to get up, he saw something crawling through the darkness, something that shouldn't exist. Long, spindly limbs, a face twisted in eternal agony. It whispered to him, its voice a chorus of madness. You're not alone. You're never alone. Panic set in as he scrambled toward the exit, but the creature was faster. It reached for him, its cold fingers brushing his skin. On the bridge, Rayner and Malik tried to contact the rest of the crew, but there was no response. The shadows in the room seemed to pulse with life, growing darker with each passing second. The presence in the ship grew stronger, more oppressive. The Erebus isn't a ship, Malik said, his voice trembling. It's a trap, a lure. Rayner's eyes widened in realization. It's been calling ships here, feeding on them. The presence surged, and the temperature dropped even further. The voice in their minds was louder now, clearer. It wasn't asking for help anymore, it was commanding. Stay, join us. Suddenly, the walls of the ship began to warp, the metal twisting as if alive. Shadows poured from the corners, enveloping the crew, suffocating them with cold, suffocating darkness. As the ship consumed them, the last thing Captain Rayner heard was the voice, no longer a whisper, but a deafening roar. Welcome to the void. No one ever heard from the Starship Aegis again. Weeks later, its distress signal was detected, faint and far away, repeating the same words over and over. Help, please, trapped, alone.